thank you for joining us this lunchtime. It's really nice that you've been able to join us and hear a bit more about the Seahorse Trust. Obviously, my name's Becky. I've been working now with the Trust for over 10 years. I started, first of all, as a survey diver and working with Neil, who you'll probably meet later because I'm sure he'll say hello again. Working with him down at Studland, searching for seahorses and recording information about them, and that is me in the picture with the little cheeky seahorse at the bottom. And since then, I've sort of migrated into more of my education background and do a lot of the education work for the Seahorse Trust. So the trust itself was established in 1999. The whole purpose of it is to conserve and protect seahorses, but obviously you can't have seahorses if you don't have a wider marine environment. So we do obviously do a lot of work in terms of marine ecology and trying to raise awareness of the issues that are found around our coasts. And our work is supported by a lot of volunteers, including myself, but there's lots of us who do all sorts of different things, including the dives. There's also those who look after information that comes through on illegal trade that comes through from Facebook and Etsy and places like that, and I'll talk to you a bit more about that later. But we do need volunteers for all sorts of different things, so if you are interested, obviously do get in touch. We're a very small charity, there's basically Neil and then the group of us that are the volunteers, but we do lots and lots of things. We have been very, very effective. We do education, conservation. We've also done lots of lobbying for protected areas. Here we've got a map of Studland Bay, which is our main research site, and the data that we collected there was used to manage and get that area protected as a marine conservation zone. It did take a while to get there, but it is now a marine conservation zone, and we're really pleased about that. We're also part of the management group who's helping to develop what sort of management measures are going to come in place for that MCZ, but as some of you may already know, there are quite a few MCZs around the UK that are based for seahorses, and so obviously everything that we tell you in this presentation applies to all of them. We've also lobbied government and taken the government to court, mainly due to an oil rig that was put in Poole Bay that was done without a proper environmental impact assessment. And we won that court case, so we do lots of different things. And if you are interested in all the things we get up to, please do look on the website. And we work with lots and lots of different partners. Obviously, we need to work all together in order to get to a main conservation objective. And we've got loads of patrons, which expands nearly every year. But that also includes Monty Halls, Kate Humble, Chris Packham, and they all support the work that we do. And we also, we're always looking for other organisations to work with across the world to protect seahorses, but also the wider marine environment. The British Seahorse Survey began in 1994, following a report of a seahorse from Jersey, and that database has expanded more and more and more. There's so many sightings on there now, and it is the longest running continuous survey of its kind in the whole world. But basically it wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the volunteers who support us, but also anyone who has a sighting, whether it be for Britain or anywhere around the world. We do want your information. It doesn't matter when it came from, just anything you can tell us would be great, and it will help support seahorse conservation in the long run. Sightings are fed into this database, and using that information we actually managed to get both British seahorse species protected in 2008 under the Wildlife and Countryside Act. Because of that protection, in case you're not aware, in the UK, well, England, Scotland and Wales, Ireland has slightly different, Northern Ireland has slightly different rules, but basically you cannot go and seek a seahorse. So you can't go somewhere to look for them unless you have a licence, and those licences come from the Marine Management Organisation. Obviously, if you wanted to dive and support the work of the Trust, then get in touch with us, and obviously we'll talk to you a bit more about how that all works, but please be aware that they are protected for a reason. So the National Seahorse Database, obviously the data, we use it to improve our understanding of seahorses, because you might tell us something that we weren't expecting, such as when you might have seen them in the time of the year, or where you've seen them and we haven't found that species in that sort of habitat before, all those sorts of things. We can learn different things. Basically, the database has every sighting we've had come in. Any information that comes to us is valuable, and photographs are worth 1,000 words. If you look at the photograph we have on this slide, you can see the habitat, not just the seahorse. So from the seahorse, we can tell whether it's male or female, what species it is. But the habitat as well also tells us a lot about where you're finding them and the condition of that habitat. At the moment, the National Seahorse Database has got over 2,000 sightings. It might even be coming up to 2,500, and data is held very securely, but it is shared under requests to support conservation measures or research. Obviously, we work well with government to make sure the right conservation measures are put in the right places. Developing on from that, we started to get lots of information on seahorses from around the world, so it was fitting to create the World Seahorse Survey. And from that, we've now got sightings from everywhere, from Malta, Cambodia, Japan, Bahamas, all sorts of different places. We get lots and lots of information, and it all feeds into this database that's available, as we say, for anyone with a purpose that needs it. Seahorses are distributed across the world, as you can see shown in blue. A lot of people do think that seahorses are tropical, and the ones around the UK aren't really here. They are here, they're definitely here, we've seen them, and we know that they're breeding, but they do go as far north as up in Scotland, as you can see on this map. We do have sightings for that far north. So, you know, don't think that just because it's a bit chilly, you won't find a seahorse. You'd probably quite like it. So on our website, if I can get this to work, if you go and have a look online, there is the World Seahorse Survey. And basically, if you click on that link, it will take you onto the page where you can record your sightings, but also there's a map on there, and you can add in wherever you want to have a look to see if there's any recordings. So for this one, I put in Studland Bay, because obviously that's our main research site, and you can see on there where sightings have been found. Obviously, to ensure the protection of seahorses, it doesn't show you the exact pinpoint of where we found those seahorses, you know, and I hope you can understand that, but it gives you a good idea of where seahorses are found around the UK and, as I say, around the world. So the research that has been sort of the main focus for the Seahorse Trust has been at Studland Bay. It's a beautiful site, really, really lovely. If you've never been there, it really is a gorgeous place, but that is its main downfall. Everybody wants to go to Studland. And a lot of people who are on the surface just don't realise what's going on underneath. So we focused on spiny seahorses at this area in Studland Bay, but those of you that might be familiar with Studland will know that short-snouted seahorses are also found there. But they are in a slightly different habitat, so we have focused mainly on spiny seahorses, and we use survey dives to record the information on every seahorse that we come across, but also if we don't find any seahorses, that's just as valuable, and finding out information on the habitat, what condition it's in, you know, is it a good condition, is it bad condition, all those different things do help. Territorial behaviour is something that we've found a lot about in terms of the data that we've had. So prior to the surveys, there was sort of a limited amount of information, but we've managed to find out that males and females have territories. Females have much larger territories compared to a male, and they do overlap, because obviously a lot of you will be familiar that seahorses kind of meet and greet each other in a lovely little monogamous dance on occasion, and they have certain territories that overlap in that way. There's more to learn though always. We've learned a lot about their reproductive behaviour. We've had quite a few males who've been a little bit, how do I put this? They've punished themselves a lot by getting pregnant month after month after month, bless them. So we've learned, you know, a lot about that. And we've also found out about seasonal migration. So the seahorses around our coastline will tend to go off in the winter months into deeper waters, and then come back into the shallower waters during the summer months, basically following the food, the plankton that the mysis shrimps that they eat that require the plankton. but also it's a lot to do with light. So we're learning new things all the time. There are between 45 and 60 species, depending on who you talk to, but they're all amazing. They're all beautiful. There's lots and lots of them to find out about. But obviously, there's my favourite species. I'm quite sort of love the one with the lovely big rubber ring around his head. But obviously, when you get into the sea, these are the two that we find around our coasts. So we've got the spiny seahorse, most notably due to the mane, and you can see all these lovely spines coming off him, which are actually skin appendages that grow and actually are reabsorbed by the body and grow again. It depends on the environment they're in. And then we've got the short snouted seahorse, who has got a little stocky snout, and I tend to think of them as little bruisers. They are quite stocky in comparison. When you look at these two though, some of you who may have seen them in the wild will possibly say, well, the one I saw didn't look that colour. And they do change colour, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So short-snouted seahorses, these are the areas where we've got recordings for them, and they mostly prefer this gravelly habitat with rocks and very little vegetation, in comparison to the spiny seahorse, who just loves seagrass. And seagrass beds, that's its preferred habitat. So again, you know, these are not pinpointed points because we can't tell you exactly where we find them. But you know, these are where we get recordings from. So how big actually is a seahorse? Well, surprisingly, they do vary quite a lot. So we have the tiny ones, which are about 2.5 centimetres, all the way up to the largest at about 30 centimetres. And when you read through the literature, you find that, you know, you get given a special size for each species. Well, we're still learning a lot about seahorses. And in 2015, we actually found the largest spiny seahorse, who was found by a fisherman down at the pool, and it was 34 centimetres from the top of its head to its tail, which is really, really big compared to what we believed spiny seahorses could grow to. So as I say, we always learn. One of the most fascinating things for seahorses is obviously the fact that the male gets pregnant, not the female. The only animal where this happens. You can see on this male here, he's got a beautiful large brood pouch, and that's full of lots of little live baby seahorses in there. And they do give birth just like mammals do. They, you know, it's proper little contractions and the little babies come out. If you really want to watch that, have a look on YouTube. There's loads of videos of male seahorses giving birth. And they're tiny, tiny, perfect little seahorses. And they can give birth to as many as 1,500. And it can take up to 12 hours, if you can imagine getting all those little babies out one at a time. So it depends on the species as to how many they have and how long it takes. But it's really quite incredible. But really, the worst thing is that only one possibly of those 1,500 will survive. They will go up into the plankton, and then, you know, they eventually settle out once they get large enough. One of the other fascinating things with seahorses are their eyes. They're a bit like chameleons. Their eyes operate independently of each other, so they can look forwards, backwards, different ways. And the one thing that we're very, very keen on advocating is that we don't use any flash photography or bright lights when photographing seahorses. Their eyes are incredibly sensitive. And because of this, if you think about someone setting a flash off in your face and you live in the sun all the time, it's not very pleasant. But if you're a seahorse who's not in the sun all the time, or any other marine creature, it's obviously going to give you a bit of a start. And unfortunately, seahorses have inherent diseases within them. There's been some research on it. And because of the stress that's caused by flash photography and the strong lights, it can stress them to a point that actually these diseases take over and they will eventually die. You'll notice that when you go to any aquaria, there's always signs up saying, please don't use flash photography, especially with seahorses. And that's because they know this happens. If a group of people go through with lots of flash photography, that seahorse tank will pretty much be empty within a couple of weeks. So please, you know, do be aware of that. They also have a prehensile tail, just like a monkey, which allows them to hold on to the smallest little bits of weed and hold on, you know, quite steadily in any sort of current. So here's a male holding on really steadily onto the seagrass. He also blends in really well. And this is one of the biggest problems when it comes to researching seahorses, is finding them. They're really good at hiding. Camouflage is brilliant. But when you're trying to look for them, it's a bit awkward, but it's great. So you can see the spines on this spiny seahorse. They're actually helping to blend in with that very fine weed on the seagrass there. The other thing that they can do is change their colour. So they have a natural background colour, and they can change it either very rapidly, in the case of doing things like a courtship dance. So you can see here, we've actually got a pair of 3-spot seahorse, so one at the front and one at the back. And you can see the beautiful black outline around the chest with the 3 spots really clearly on the back. And it's just to, pronunciate their body to say, look at me, aren't I gorgeous, just before they have their little mating ritual. They can also change their colour depending on where they are, so they can blend in more naturally into the environment. But that does take a slightly longer process. Here you can see we've got a pair of Hippocampus cuda who are hiding quite nicely in the detritus there. Perfect background colour that they've changed to in order to blend in. But sadly, seahorses are amazing, they're lovely, but it's not all good news for them. And unfortunately, humans as we are, we like to take things for different reasons, and seahorses are something that people love for curios, to enjoy them as something as a memento of their time at the sea, or it's also used in traditional medicine. And also there's the aquarium trade as well. So live seahorses are caught for the aquarium trade, and it is a huge threat to seahorses all around the world. And please don't think that this is the problem elsewhere in the world. This is a huge problem in the UK as well. That's why we have a dedicated volunteer who takes in emails and things from people who have found seahorses for sale on UK websites. So we do have, after a very big piece of work done by Neil and the team, a very good agreement with Facebook, with eBay, now with Etsy, to try and stop the sale of seahorses on these platforms. It is illegal and shouldn't be happening, but it does. These seahorses here are actually from a hall in Brixham, which was found by somebody who'd gone to the seaside for the day and found seahorses for sale in the shop. So please don't think this is a other place problem. It's not, it's a UK problem too. Like these 2 little seahorses here, they were for sale. Now, sometimes it can just be that people get them and they just think, oh, they're old, I can just sell them, but there are rules, we have to be careful. Your traditional medicine, there's quite a lot for sale. And if you ever wonder, sadly, how they get them to this state, this is how they do it. They put them onto sticks and dry them in the sun. It's not the nicest, but that's how they dry out seahorses. So a lot of work was done by Save Our Seahorses in 2012. I don't know if anyone of you saw the programme that they did that was released on Eden. I believe you can still access it through certain platforms like Netflix. But basically the research that they did, they went undercover, and incredibly brave of them, because they managed to work out that what was originally thought to possibly be around 20 million seahorses a year that would be being taken is actually about 150 million seahorses. And one of the sad things is that there has been an effort to try to stop wild taking seahorses into the trade and say, well, let's farm seahorses. But unfortunately, some people believe that farm seahorses don't have the magical powers that the wild seahorses have. So there is this whole other issue. Habitat destruction is a massive issue, especially here in the UK. The seagrass bed, many people who, if any of you are skippers or own a yacht or use yacht boats, will know that the last place you want to stick your anchor is into seagrass bed, because it is a nightmare to get it out. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there who don't know this, and they will put their anchors into seagrass. They will pull it up, and it basically brings the roots to the surface and kills the plant. And the chain drag as well is quite a big issue, and Neil's doing a lot of work at the moment in terms of installing eco moorings. But one of the things that you often see when you look from down onto seagrass beds is these lovely little circles. You will find natural breakages into a seagrass bed, but they don't look like perfect circles where you can see where the boat's been going round and round and round in the current and up and down with the tide, and the scour of the chain along the bed. So we do have to ask our question, do we want beautiful seagrass beds like this, or do we want it to look like this? Or do we want to sell seahorses or see them happily in their natural environment? There's a lot of difficult questions and answers you know, to be asked, really, not just about seahorses, but about our marine environment in general. Tomorrow evening, if you're free, Neil is doing a talk with Life Recreation Remedies. We've got a series on at the moment of webinars, and the webinar on tomorrow evening will be done by Neil. And also, if you want to learn more about seahorses, obviously I've just touched on little bits. We released our new online course earlier this year. So we've created a new online course. There's a free introductory session that you can have a look on our website. It's made up of 13 different sessions that you can go through. There's a learners community, and there's also some extra information available through a Google platform. So there's all different modules that you can go through. It's all at your own pace. There's no timeline. We're currently, the course costs £65. So if you're interested, do let us know. But I will let you know to keep an eye on our social media platforms over the weekend, because we will be putting an offer out, a discount offer, as there will be it's International Biodiversity Day on Saturday. So we will have an offer out on the course over the weekend. We also will have an offer out on this, which is a collaboration that we've done with the Great Outdoors, who run all sorts of outdoor classrooms and things, but they also created online activity bundles, and one of those is now a Seahorse Trust bundle. So you can make all sorts of different activities. One of them is this, so you make a ground art seahorse out of anything you want to. So you don't have to have children, but you can use it with children, or you can do it with yourself or anybody, or a dog. You can see the dog's been very helpful in this one. But yeah, so there's these little activity bundles, and they're normally £3.50 with 50p coming to the trust. I should say the other our own course, the money obviously all goes back to us and back to our work. And again, there will be an offer on this weekend for International Biodiversity Day. So please join our social media to see what we're up to, or have a look at the website. We're quite easy to find. There's not many seahorse charities around in the UK, so we're quite good to find. And if you are interested in sponsoring us directly, we do a membership pack. So you can adopt a seahorse if you like to. So it's £4 a month for a minimum of 6 months. Or you can actually become a member of the trust for £25 a year, which is a bargain in my opinion, obviously. But I've got to say thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, please let me know.